Greetings everyone, this is Lodrik again, and this is our game War in the Pacific Admirals Edition, and this is a game against Dojo. And this is now turn number 35, 13th and 14th February 1942. I think we are now exactly 1 month behind in the YouTube episodes compared to the real game progress, because Dojo, I think today I sent Dojo back the 14th or 15th March already. Okay, here we can see some switch of the base again, because Dojo's forces are nearby, and this can happen anytime if you don't have any base force. So my invasion forces are still unloading. Okay, at least this turn we get a little action. One of our submarines find a tanker of Dojo. These three bases west of India or south of India, often the allied player can use for scout missions and refuel and emergency harbor. So I would normally recommend it to send each base maybe a submarine. Later on, if the allied player have anti-submarine units here, air force or navy patrol, then it gets more tricky, but at the beginning maybe it's a good spot to try to find something to hunt. And this tanker looks like it's burning. Yeah, I mean 2 shell hits, 3 torpedoes, this is normally always enough to sink some cargo ship or tanker. And we get the sound feedback, so we know this tanker is dead. Yeah, and here I sent some additional. I think this is the same cruiser formation made already a bombardment before, but it was successful more or less. But the Navy Guard unit still struggle to take the base, so I sent them. I rearmed them in Saigon, and then I sent them back to try again to give some support fire. Not so successful. I mean, this is normally a little less for 2 heavy cruisers, but it's all. I think it's also more. It have more effect if you can make the bombardment at the day and not at night. But these are the handicaps of the game. There's simply no command for this. That the ships are waiting at this daytime. You must always calculate the distance the ship can travel, and then you can calculate, okay, it will attack at day or it will attack at night. This is really a game issue, I would say, because it's super stupid normally that you cannot give a clear command for this. Similar to Air Force, you normally also must give normally an Air Force an indication if it will attack, how is the weather. In War in the East 2 at least, you can normally say, okay, make an air mission, but only if the weather have a minimum requirement of so means if there's thunderstorm, why I won't make a bombardment or a bomb attack with bombers if there's a thunderstorm. My bombers will never normally hit something. But anyway, this game is much older, and at that time there was simply no options for this. and so it can happen that your bombardment is totally useless, but you get experience at least for this. Now we are sweeping the inner China or western China provinces here, Chongqing, the capital of national China, but looks like no fighters left. But at least we can find some Dutch fighters. So these are buffaloes. The name is different, but they are more like American buffaloes flying for the Dutch Air Force. Yeah, and our zero make one attack, one hit. I mean, not a kill, but at least we force the enemy to return to base. And now we get a kill. It is also because I just started this game with THG, and the difference between the situation with THG and now here, it's a how to describe this? The Japanese more or less must be successful in the first months of the war, simply to create something like elite air force, because the number, Japan can never handle the numbers. They are never enough. The Allies can simply outproduce the Japanese, and the technology advantage, latest in 43, is also in favor of the Allies. So, and with THG, the game, I have nothing. I don't have the numbers, I don't have the skilled pilots, and the technology advantage is also nearly lost. So, and this is really a handicap there. So, but here we can see you use your skilled pilot and you try to make out of your skilled pilot elite pilots, and then these elite pilots can even handle with, they maybe have not more the best equipment later on, but because they have so high experience, they still have a chance. Yeah, here's nothing again. And now we have the typical bombardment in China. I mean, in this game, Dojo more or less, he don't even try to battle the Japanese Air Force here in China. This is also the big difference to the game with THG I just pick up. It's really completely, the coin is flipped on the other side, more or less. You can say it's at that game there is no Japanese Air Force in China. There's only Allied Air Force, and there's also normally I only can try to take out of this game with THC how to not play the Japanese, and in this game with Dojo I can try to explain how to play the Japanese. I don't say it's perfect, for sure not. I mean, for sure I don't play the Japanese perfectly or near perfectly. I just play them maybe good, but you also, of course, it's a combination. What you do and what the Allies doing, and how seriously you play this. And I can only recommend that don't try to finish your turns late at the night. Always have a fresh mind. Okay, Dojo's B-17 still try to hit something, and now this time we make a hit in the port. But without big meaning. It's maybe a training mission for Dojo's B-17 Spyland, why not? And maybe in the future I can counter these attempts a little better. But just now I was, I think, busy to prepare my carrier fleet, and I have simply nothing left My focus is very strongly on Philippines, Java, Malaya, Sumatra, and not so much on this Australian island chain, New Caledonian, simply because it's only a battleground. You don't win any resources, you don't get any points there. It's simply only a battlefield. If you win this battlefield, see again, check the THJ game. The Japanese player took all the spaces, but this changed nothing. You must have first your resources in Indochina, Indonesia, and then Rangoon. This is important, not this New Caledonian stuff. Anyway, here again, we try to find enemy fighters, but Dojo calls them back, and why not? I think it's not really possible for the Chinese to really battle the Japanese not so early in the war. Normally the Chinese must try to hold the line, and then maybe in 43 and 44 the Americans, they can bring I think P-51 to China, and this is of course a first class fighter. Even the Chinese can win the battles. Here again we're sweeping Surabaya, and there's still some Dutch fighters in the air. I don't know, this is really the Dojo's part of the game. I am not sure if it's so clever for the allied player to use the airplanes like this. But I don't know what is the other options. Maybe they're all hard locked to Java. Maybe you cannot take them out. But even if you cannot take them out, maybe it is better only to train the pilots and avoid any battle, and only take the pilots and forget the airframes. But I really don't know how this works with the allies. I only can say we kill here 2 or even more. Okay, and I think this is now the second day already. I mean, last turn, I think it's already the third day of continuous air battle. I'm not so sure if last turn was a rest day or we battled again. But you can see that now Dojo has the Hurricane 2B trap. So this is Tropical Edition. So this is a Hurricane 2B. And I think this airplane have already 12 guns. And this is a really its airplane really simply can easily hit the Japanese airplanes because you have so many guns, and because we have no armor at all and very low hit points. It's you can see it's even for Dojo's pilots possible to now kill the glorious Japanese pilots. And of course there's a British, I think, veteran pilots. And it is now a stalemate, I would say. There's really a 1-to-1 battle now. And we are a little in the disadvantage because we must fly to Dojo's base of Rangoon. And our pilots, if they lost the airframe, like now, the pilot can maybe jump out of the airplane, but in any way the pilot is lost. And for Dojo, maybe 50-50, the pilots jump out of the airplane but can fight the other day. So it's a meat grinder for the Air Force, and every player must more or less decide how heavily he want to invest in this kind of battles. Because at the end, I don't know if it's for the Japanese important to control this air space if you don't have an army nearby. And in this case we are still preparing. We just start to move north. We still need 1 or 2 weeks to arrive at the border to Burma. So this is more or less only a preparation, or let's say the main purpose is more or less that I want to keep Dojo's Air Force a little in check, not that he built up high numbers. And I also try a little to keep Dojo's focus on this part of the map for other reasons. I mean, the other reasons are, of course, the second carrier fleet. And sometimes, of course, this is no one is perfect, and maybe Dojo was because he is the battle now, a lot of fire here, a lot of kills, and he maybe also a small success for Dojo. So he maybe feel good and say, looks good, try to organize this better, and then he maybe miss some stuff far away at the edge of the map. There's no real activity, only maybe some sighting reports, but not so sure what if you can take it seriously, and yeah. Yeah, what you also maybe can think about is there's Japanese fighters, these early fighters, the Oscar, and also the Zero, but many of the Japanese early fighters, they have the tendency that they can fly up to 15,000 feet very smoothly and skillful. But if you rise up the altitude, then often they're dropping fast. So everything over 20,000 feet, this fighter is normally in a handicap compared to the Allied fighters. And but it's hard to say how you want to use best your fighters. But I would simply say, no Oscar, no Zero can go really over 20,000 feet. Yeah, there's always this who dives on who can dive, and dive means speed bonus. And yes, this can be a big advantage, but I don't know. It's I simply think it's really not clever to use normally Zero and Oscars over 15,000 feet. If you have fights like this, you better go deep, and maybe the enemy dives on you. But in this low altitude, your fighters can maneuver much better, and often maybe out class the enemy fighter and try to come behind. But it's not always working. So it's the main handicap of the Japanese is in this situation now. Dojo's Hurricanes are faster. Okay, maybe not so much faster, but normally Allied planes are faster. They have armor, and they have normally also more firepower, depending on the airplane. So the technology level is often in favor of the Allies. So we are now already at mid of February. So, and I would say that the Oscar and the Flying Tiger, they are for sure equal. Yeah, I think they are. But if the Oscar wants C and the Hurricane to be equal, I would simply say that the Hurricane is it's a little better. If I have the choice, I would say give me the Hurricane. I think the biggest advantage for the Oscar is still the range. I think the Hurricanes have very short range compared to the Oscar, but the range is a question. The range allow you only to fly somewhere and take the battle. But if the battle starts, the range have no meaning more. Oh yeah, anyway. My poor Oscar pilots. And you can see again and again, because the Allies, the Hurricanes, they have armor, and then the 2 heavy machine guns. I can hit, and so many times you see damage. Airplane have to return to base, and again and again. I think the Flying Tiger are much easier to kill. Okay. At the end, Dojo's fighter had too many mechanical issues and they have to return. And officially we make now 4 losses against 2 kills. So, this is maybe more or less the let's say I would say it's a minimum, but I mean if it's more worse than this, if you have a kill ratio, if you lose 4 and the enemy lose 2, then I would say it's a bad day. If you lose more than this ratio, then I would say then you have a very bad day. But the day is still long, so maybe this time we had it was a little unlucky, and maybe the next pilots are more skillful, or maybe less Hurricanes and more Flying Tigers, and we also are maybe in an advantage. You see again, we make the first attack and we make immediately a hit, and we can force the Hurricane immediately to return to base. But often they simply only force the airplane to stay 1 or 2 days at the base, and after 3 days normally it's back in the skies. So, but in this case we get a kill. Oh, normally I'm really lucky. If every Hurricane 2B I can kill, I'm very lucky. I really learned to hate them. I think there are other days getting more bloody. I think there was one day, there was a Black Friday, something like this for the Japanese Air Force. But this is more in the future. I think today we have it's so-so. And we can still kill some Flying Tigers. Oh, even one more. So I think we've killed up to now 3 airplanes of Dojo. 2 Flying Tigers and 1 Hurricane. But at the end, this is still Fog of War. Even if this is very close to the reality and much better than the combat report later, it is not 100% true. And always keep in mind, what you can see is only the airframe at the end. There's always a check after your airplane or airframe gets destroyed. The pilot always try to jump out, and if he is successful, it's a check. Of course, if my pilot jump now out of Rangoon, even if he jump out and survives this, he's a prisoner of war. So normally you can say any destroyed airplane means also a lost pilot. So far I only know if you control the hex next to the battle. Like if I stay here in Pegu and I control Pegu and the air battle is Rangoon, I think still then there's the possibility that the pilot can return to base. But I don't know if there's really a rule. I only read about this, and then there are many things in this game is not so 100% clear written down, and believing, but not knowledge. So officially we kill only 2, but I think we saw for sure 3. So at the end of the day we can check the summary and then we know how successful this day was. This is now bombardment in China again. And our Dojos still try to find something. Oh, we have now the bombers are coming. And one British troop still try to engage. Oh. This must be a very good pilot. He make 1 attack run and can kill 2 escort fighters. Ah. Shitty Hurricanes. Shitty British pilots. Okay, never. So because we have here also it's only overcast official, but I think because the pilot, I don't know, normally the pilot don't attack the bombers, but somehow we was not really successful in hitting something. Normally if we now kill 1 or 2 airplanes in the ground, I would say okay, it was still acceptable. Overall I would simply say this was a win for Dojo, but you cannot win every day, that is okay. Dojo again with his B-17s and hit nothing. Okay. So they're landing in Cebu. Yeah. Some smaller losses. This will normally always happen, even if there's enemies or not. Some units will always get lost, exit the ship on the wrong side or in the wrong moment. That is normally not the issue. Okay. So this is now, I think, I don't know, this first and second part of this army source of Nanyang, and we catch up with our main Japanese army, our central Japanese army, because normally we have the Mongolian army in the north. This is more or less center of China, and then we have one army operating more in the area source north of Canton, and yeah, I think this Chinese forces have no really chance. And some units completely give up already, and some try to run away. And yeah. So this lucky or unlucky Japanese guys, they simply, I think they get shot by their own guys, because they're Chinese, they will not normally fight more. They only run and give up. You can see that here really now 99% destroyed, and only 8 is more or less run away. Because yeah, maybe some units we don't hit, but if maybe only 8 units run away in the source, then there's nothing more left. Okay, here we take now the base there's only a base force. I scouted this base before and I saw nothing, and so I sent in, rushed my Navy Guard units, tried to conquer the space. There's a big port of 5, I think. So it's very easy later to unload here units. Even big armies you can normally unload here very, let's say, fast. Only need only 2-3 days, let's say, or not a week. Yeah, and only a base force. The next attempt to take the base of Sabang, and you can see that the attack value of the Dutch are very low already. But it was at the end still, for the numbers, not. I mean, we don't fail, but we also don't win. So we need normally something like assault odds of 2-1 or 3-1. Then you break the enemy morale. Then they will flat and give up. In this case, it's a stalemate. We kill each other 1-1 nearly, and this is our other Navy Guard units waiting for reinforcements. I think the reinforcement is coming sooner or later. You can see that Dojo have not much normally. I mean, he has less attack value than I have, but because this is triple defense area, I need at least double or better triple the amount of firepower. So if I feel 150, maybe I will attack. The day will come, but not today. So this is the end of the day normally. Means we're leaving February 13th. So we just got, I think, a bunch of new Navy Guard units in Tokyo. I think every month or every 6 months, every 6 weeks maybe, I think there's like 6 Navy Guard units coming in Tokyo. And your Japanese player really needs this Navy Guard units for this picking up of the small islands, and also try to defend the small islands. So at the beginning you really have a very small number of Navy Guard units only for this amphibious operations, because Navy Guard units can simply make an amphibious assault more easily with less lower losses. If you use normal army units and tank units to make an amphibious assault, there's a tendency simply that the risk is higher that you lose much more. I think Navy Guard units are trained for this kind of stuff. It makes sense. But it's always a calculation of luck. If you're lucky, everything is fine. And if you're unlucky, even Navy Guard units can suffer higher losses. Okay. Here we try to land our next units. Many of these bases have only a base force, and they are normally one Navy Guard unit can take them if they are not unlucky. In this case I was just a little unlucky, I would say. Yeah, you can always make more safe and say, okay, you always take 2 or 3 Navy Guard units, and then you will always much easier win the battle. It's hard. It's up to the player style, how aggressive you want to be. You can always push your luck, and sometimes you will fail. But if you win, then you can save time. So, but I would also say you better have always something like a backup plan. If you realize, okay, something is not working, then don't try too hard to push it and win with force. If you really realize, like in the game with THG, it's Normally you can give up, but yeah, I have more or less to call everything back to start again. And even I don't know if this is still possible, but at least I must try it. Because the way the guys before play the game is not working. Because okay, if you play the Japanese, you start with a big amount of supplies and fuel and everything. So this is what I also said long time ago. If you play the Japanese, and you want to make this play like you play it like the Allies, and you only rush everything and you don't care and you don't have a long run strategic thinking and logistic chain and all of this stuff. Now in mid of April, I have nothing left. It's simply all totally empty. Half of my bases are dead. No fuel, no supplies, armies starving, Air Force cannot operate more, Navy have very strict limitations. This will happen with the Japanese. Because the Japanese don't produce like the Allies everything off map. The Americans, they get more or less supplies, fuel and everything off map. It's the west coast of America, in Capstown or wherever, they're simply you get more supplies and you get more supplies, and the job is you have is only transport the stuff. But with the Japanese this will not work. With the Japanese you control all your industry, means you're also 100% responsible for your industry. And if you mess up your industry, then it's over. This game also have very because the game have some limitation. A lot of stuff you cannot take back more. You once choose the road of the industry with the Japanese, then it's over. You did it. You cannot ask to give back the stuff. You invest your supplies for some stuff. And if you later realize, oh, all what I invest in this industry is useless, yeah, then it's useless, but you still lost your supplies. Anyway, second day, Battle of Rangoon again. The British still won't give up. These are the British. They never know that they lost already the war a long time ago. Yeah. If Dojo would have only flying tigers 1 month longer, then this will help. But the British show up here too early, a little too early for my taste. But today is maybe a better day for the Oscar pilots at least. And it is not a good day for the Flying Tigers again. Yeah, today looks better so far. Okay. That Hurricane pilot really evade a lot of text, but at the end he gets, at least the airplane gets destroyed, hopefully. Okay, I think this was much better than the first day. Ah, okay. Here's nothing again. Always good to damage and disable and interdict some of these Chinese forces on the ground. Simply make it more easy for the Japanese army later to pick up and get rid of this bandits and troublemaker Chinese armies. Okay. This time, no British fighter tried to stand between us. But again, this is a now bad weather situation and no real hits. I mean, this is normally a successful attack if you... Sonya, I think they carry only 50 kilogram bombs? Yeah. But okay, each one take 4. Okay. But still, where normally one disabled units, this little bombardment power, this is good. There's also maybe a strategic thinking about the Japanese army bomber and which type you want to produce and how long you want to produce them. More or less, I produce no Japanese army bombers, I think. I more or less stop immediately the production and I only use what I have and I try not to waste them. And I really only wait for the Helen 2A to arrive. Because for me, and this is my personal opinion, nothing is really acceptable good what the Japanese army have at the start of the war. And the really only good bomber coming for the Japanese army is the Helen 2A. And later you get also the Peggy. It's also good. But everything before is... it burns too easy. It dies so fast. Naja, and Dojo's B-17s are very off. But series here is also bad weather. So, two very high, 25,000 in bad weather, of course, there's not really a chance to hit something. Looks like one of our submarines get detected. But this is also... if you have the time and if you want to play this game on a high level, every submarine you have normally to check if it's near base of the enemy. And if you see detection on your submarine, you better change the position. If you control your submarines by yourself, many players, they simply make something like a patrol area and let them run around. But most of the time I control my submarines completely by hand. I always tell them where they go, and if I see I have detection, then I change the position. And sometimes of course I change the position because if I find nothing after weeks, then maybe okay, try other position. So, but if a submarine is not moving, it burns only very small numbers of fuel and can stay much longer in operation in the on duty. And then maybe you burn more or faster your torpedoes and not so much the fuel. But these are different tactics and heavily related on the time you want to invest in this kind of game. And maybe also experience. If you have experience, then you maybe can click much faster and you don't think so much. You already have already the map in your memory and you already think some steps in advance, and then it's not so hard to finish a turn. In a good day, 1 hour, I think maximum 2 hours. Okay. We're still unloading the second Navy Guard unit. And this is maybe already the end of February 14th. So, similar to last turn, not really much activity. But it's simply for me it is between the two steps. Philippines and Malaysia is over. And Sumatra and Java is still coming. And also Borneo. Burma is first coming. So we try it again, but we failed. This time the Allies had a 1 to 2. I mean, our units are simply exhausted. Yeah, exhausted. The Dutch forces are more or less giving up. But our units are mental on a breaking point, maybe. they're not dying, but they have no morale. So I think maybe must wait one turn. We will see how it ends up next. Maybe I must give it a 1 or 2 turns rest and then try again. I don't think that the Dutch are really have more the power. It's more the Japanese, they lack the motivation to really strike hard. Okay, so we lent our forces and we have now nearly double the power. Before it was a 54 to 60, now it's a 54 to 121. So we already double our guys. So I think we can maybe soon try to strike and see how successful this is. Okay, so it is February 15th, 42, and at least Dojo will remember this day, but this will be, we will see soon why. Well, first we can check the intelligence report, and we can see that the air-to-air losses was in favor of the Japanese. 2 to 1 kill, 19 to 19 to 9, but I think there are also some Dutch planes. You can see we lost 1 by flak, and the operation losses are equally 8 to 10. So the air losses in total are 27 to 20. This is, I think, a super common kill ratio. If we see the overall campaigning kill ratio of 849 to 512, yeah, if you see this, then it was not the best day, but it's okay. Still, we lost 14 Oscars, 9 killed, and 5 operational losses, simply because the Oscar have still so little hit points, and they're crashing so easily. And we see that we killed 9 of these Dutch Buffaloes. They're second class fighters, so but we kill 8 Hurricanes, this is first class fighters, and the Flying Tigers are also first class fighters. So we kill 15 first class fighters, and we lost 14 air first class, but we also lost 1-0. So we can say this fighter kill ratio is exactly 1 to 1. 15 first class for Dojo, 15 for me, but Dojo also lost 9 of this second class fighters. But I'm not sure if it really matters. This is yeah. And we also had a Dojo lost by operation. But you start only with 12, and I think if you lose one of these Dojos, 1 per week by operational losses, if you use them every day, maybe normal. Maybe. Okay, and the pilots, out of this 20 pilots, we lost 12 pilots. 4 are missing and 8 are killed. And 1 returned but get wounded. This is okay, maybe. I mean, we lost 20 airplanes, and if your airplane is blown up over the skies of Rangoon, I mean, this 9 Oscars gets killed over Rangoon. For sure, these 9 pilots are lost. And this flag guy is also gets killed. So this 10 pilots, I think this are the 10 is killed, or aircraft losses. Oh no, pilot killed. 8 we killed. Okay, and 4 are missing. So this was 10. So 8 are killed and maybe 2 jump out, but gets missing. So yeah, in some ways else. Anyway, this is always very similar. So, and ships, I think there was no ships, only the tanker. Okay, the tanker, 15 points, British tanker, with a capacity of 6,650. Okay. I think last turn we had a big tanker. But I can also... maybe... I don't know. Anyway, this is okay tanker, but nothing really special. And the Dutch sub... We had any Dutch... cannot remember that we really sunk something. But intelligence information in fog of war, who knows if this is true. So, what else is the situation now? Next turn for the 15th, so the next turn I will make a special long episode. I will also check in the tracker software and explain more background information. So this turn I will not explain too much here. We only can see the overall situation that I block still the road to Yan'an and Dojo try to enter Yan'an. And I think I only bring... Also, I also bring the Kwantong army headquarters here. Simply to give a little more support to my guys, because they always lacking supplies. And if you have a headquarter has always a bonus to call in additional supplies. It will normally help the army if you have a headquarter. This is the main of the reasons why I always operate only armies with headquarters together, because this headquarter not only give attack and defense value and morale boost and try to lower the fatigue of the unit, it also calls in more supplies. If he has no HQ, it's much harder for these units to get enough supplies to keep the war machine running. And the HQ is, like a war in the East, a bonus. Yeah, the HQ can simply much better talk with the supply line leaders and tell them we need supplies, we really need them. Not a simple commander of a division. Yeah. So we get rid of this unit and we force them to the source, and in the source we just happen here army. And so we have here now 2000 attack value, so, and I think these Chinese forces are only, yeah, you can forget it. These are the two broken units, they run away, but there's nothing more left. Here, a little more guys, 23,000, but I think we will maybe attack this turn here. We will see. They are trapped. At the end they are. There's no way more for them to escape. Here in the north we're still running. Here we are also running. We try to cross here and follow this small road, but this needs still many turns. Here in the center we try to... We have here one army, but I don't know if this is enough to... yeah, here only 5,000 guys. So this I think we can also get rid next turn. Here are some units trapped. I don't know if we can catch them because we don't have here really too much. We have only a blocking force here. And here we have only this is only garrison. So our big army is normally here, and I think we're walking, but we will walk now here up and try to catch this running units here. The air battle of Rangoon and the units, so I still upgrade the airfield. I always try to get it bigger, get more airplanes here. So because now I can barely operate these units, 250 is the maximum, but I must keep most of my units in training so they don't operate with the full numbers on the airplane. And you can see originally this is a squadron of 42 and now we are down to 29, so we had a lot of written off and also air-to-air losses, and it's maybe time to make a day rest or let other units fight. This unit is fresh. Here is also 7 missing. These are fresh. But I think this squadron is normally not so well. They're still The skills of air is normally okay. You can train up to 70, but not higher. The experience is still a little low. Normally, if you have a combat, the air skill is normally to hit the enemy. The defense is normally to avoid. If the enemy try to hit you, then you use your defense skill to avoid the attack. This is you try to hit the. And the experience is the overall for everything what is not combat normally. But I think if you take off the airplane, you don't make an accident, you have a check. Then you fly to the destination, okay, you make a check here. Maybe bad weather, you have a check here. You try to return to the base, you have a check here. If you're damaged, you have a second check. Similar, and the experience, I think they're helping for all what is not combat related. So this is what I read out of the instructional manual, that this is non-combat related, and this you can also train, I think, up to 70, but I think you can go easily to 40, then up to 50 it's also okay, up to 60 then it slows down already, and from 60 to 70 is very slow if you only try to train the pilots. It's possible, but latest at 70 is a hard, I think this is a maximum for training. Over 70 you cannot train. Then you need real-time experience. Okay, anything else here? I think I talked about this many times before, so we can pass this. So we have here a unit, but there's no enemy, so we can take this base. And these units are, you can see, fatigue is 35, and they also disrupted. So they don't really lost much. You can see 36 and 10 disabled, and the maximum is 48. So only 2 squadrons are really destroyed. Maybe some support is destroyed, but not really much. So they don't really suffer too much, but they're tired. This is also why the morale is low. Normally many of these Japanese Navy Guard units, they're starting with a morale of 90, 99, and now the morale is a little low. I mean, compared to Allied forces, maybe still high. Yeah, here we take Semarang. This was not a big task, it was normally more or less easy. I think I missed something last time, or I don't know, sometimes you always make mistakes. And I think I make the mistake that I don't have my invasion fleet with air support and flak already ready to land now. Normally you must have it more or less here, maybe around the corner, that if you take the base, or even here, if you take the base, then you try to land immediately a air HQ, a navy or a base force, and maybe also some flag, because then you have air cover here already in Java. Because you cannot really make air cover from a far away province. This will make these pilots too easily tired. And you can also have a carrier fleet nearby, but all my carriers are busy now. So this is a little lacking here. Can be better, that simply have this kind of equipment earlier here. I think I need 1 or 2 turns more to get it in, what we will see. It's not that it kills me, but it's not really perfect. And here in Armborn we have now so 2 Navy Guard units. Maybe we will take them, take the base soon. And here still not ready. I still prepare, I think, stuff. Here's more stuff coming. Always more stuff is coming. I think Bull was, yeah, I just run out of fuel because the carrier, they consume so much fuel, and I think I also other stuff running around, and the fuel was a little late. I think I fill up some fuel first to truck, and I miscalculate, I think, a little, so I have now 1 turn without fuel in Rabul. And yeah, so I need 1 more turn to get this done. Okay, so this is normally all. The only thing what I can now show is the to see how is the situation with the carrier fleet running. So the battle fleet more or less is always one turn behind because they had some repair, I think, or maintenance. So, but they also still have no detection level. And the fleet is now really ready to prepare. The carriers are here and they have still no detection. This is a heavy cruiser formation, also have no detection, and the light cruiser formation. The light cruiser formation have only light rain. Here is several storms, and here is extreme overcast. So maybe also the weather can help, of course, to cover your forces, that the chance that the enemy detect you. But this is purely luck. It's normally no way in this game that you really can move with the weather. The whole weather system here is very, I would say, I find no way really to work with it. I ignore the weather because I cannot see how is the weather in the next days really coming or going. They have something like a forecast, but I think it's more or less useless. I don't count on it. If I won't count on the weather and then it's not working, then I think then I maybe lose more. So I simply ignore the weather. And I often had this that I move my carrier fleets in a position, but I was not sure if the position is safe, and then I tell them more or less, because it's a 2-day turn, move in and move out again. And then the moment I move in, then there was bad weather, then no airstrike, and then I move away, then nothing happened. Anyway, so normally I will try to come close to strike range of Bombay. And the cruiser formations is simply to protect the carrier, and this is also for the battleship, because it's still possible that maybe there's a big bunch of battleships or whatever here waiting for me, and I simply split the forces that I really focus for what is important. So I have my carriers here. I have 2 heavy cruisers for the direct support and destroyers normally for anti-submarine stuff. But I keep the direct protection forces of the carrier low. I mean, less than this I would not go. This is the minimum, I would say, you need. Maybe 2 or 3, 4 more destroyers, but I also don't put it too much, because all these forces are blocked. It's never your intention to use this force to really have a navy engagement. This is only emergency backup stuff. So I use more or less independent forces nearby, not too far away, with a reaction not too, I mean, you can, no, I don't make the reaction too big also, that they don't run away. And if there's some enemy forces, then normally our this forces, because they also have the command of threat tolerance is high, but never absolute. I don't know, absolute is always like, they can maybe do something crazy. If it's high, then they already normally take the battle, but they will not take the battle if it's like there are 4 battleships and you have only light cruiser, then maybe the light cruiser will try to escape. But if you do absolute, the light cruiser will engage even 4 battleships, and then you know what will happen. Okay. Good. So next turn we will see how successful this is out, because I don't really have here knowledge. I only suggest, because here's a shipyard, maybe there's something in repair, maybe there's upgrade stuff, and it's also normally a port of 6 and an airfield of 7, so I expect that here is something normally. So next turn we will see, I mean, the sneak was already successful. Now we must only see how is the weather, and then secondly, if there's anything we can really sink, or maybe in worst case there are only some small cargo ships. then all this operation was successful but useless. And don't forget that all this kind of operations, you burn fuel. And like in the other HTC game, I have with the HTC I have all my navy, but I have my navy but no fuel, and then my navy is more or less very limited in activity. And this is why you must think how you use your forces. Of course, you cannot be too passive, but there must be always a meaning, I would say, behind your activities. At least you try to give it a meaning. Of course, anti-submarine and patrol and all this stuff will burn fuel for sure, and it's normally not possible to not do this. But heavy units consume more fuel. That is also true. So heavy units, use them if you think you really need them, and try to avoid unnecessary activities with them. Depending how successful you can conquer oil. I mean, if you conquer a lot of oil, then you can be more active, I would say. I have here now, you can shortly only check this. If I go to list of all bases, resources, and then of my fuel, then we can see that in Tokyo I have still over 600,000 tons of fuel. Port Arthur also 600,000, Osaka 550,000, and then it drops already down Balikpapan, but we can see this is a Kobe, but Balikpapan is 80,000, Manila 80,000, Miri 60,000, Singapore 60,000. So, and also here in other bases at least something. Hong Kong, normally I would say every main base need normally at least 20,000, better 50,000 fuel. So Tok normally need more fuel. Rangoon need more fuel. Bangkok I don't really use so much, so I think it's not so important. But Shanghai also don't need so much normally because there's not so heavy equipment running around. But this is normally, and you also need normally in every main base at least 20,000 supplies. And maybe I can show it here again, but here, this one. Okay, but normally this is a squadron of 36, but I have no 35. Normally I can give it one more unit, but the problem is that it really not show you why exactly. There can be different reasons. There can be a delay because only every 7 days you can give a squadron replacement. But it can be in this case simply because we have less than 20,000 supplies. So I think often depending on listing also depending on the airfield and if you have an air HQ here, but often you need more supplies to give a reinforcements unit. I don't know if maybe there's another unit I can give something. Here is the same. Normally there's 30, but you have only 21, but I cannot give supplies. And you can also see that there's red. Red is always disabled or inactive. If I now say disable this group, then you can see the planes will be destroyed. Normally, if this is not red, then the planes will go back to the pool. But this unit, because I think this base is simply now, this is also maybe because it's orange, is handled like it's not in the supply chain. This is a game style, but so because we have two less supplies, the airport is not connected to the network. So this is why you need at least you need double the supplies than are required. But I think it's also over 20,000. This game is sometimes a little tricky. And keep 20,000 fuel, 20,000 supplies is normally the minimum every main base need. And 20,000 fuel you burn so fast and quickly. Okay, I think this is now enough because there's not much more. Here still. I think our forces are arriving in Manila and they are still in. Yeah, they just arrived. I think now I make 1 or 2 turns rest because they're still a little damaged. And before I bring anything like a division on a transport near to an enemy airport base where there's, because so far we only fight enemy fighters, but the enemy bombers are still active, and I don't want to lose something like a division on a transport ship sunk here. So normally you must first make sure that you have your own air cap, combat air patrol, that you get rid of these enemy bombers. Do you need you can bring here fighters or you bring carriers nearby. Okay. Maybe the first carrier fleet? I think the first carrier fleet is in maintenance, yeah. The first carrier fleet is in maintenance. I think there was a little damage over time. Simply they get system damage. So I call them in, let them repair, and then I also need some fuel. And then next turn I can operate them out again. Good. I think this is enough. Not more much to say because next turn I will have a longer episode and then I give more feedback information. Thank you all. See you again. Take care. Bye bye.